would you rather live in a world where these systems are decentralized and we all control a small piece, or where it's centralized and someone controls your brain chip and they can turn it off and lock you down in your home and control how far your car can drive if you don't play ball?
Also, the MAGA movement. It sort of feels like they're doing the bare minimum for Americans and what we actually put them in office for, and then doing the absolute maximum for like Bibi Netanyahu's entire agenda, while being like, oh, but look, we did, at least Tom Homan did get out 2,000 criminals in the border. We've stopped it. And we've asked you for a lot more. The mandate was a lot more. And you seem to have, in just 3 months, done so much for Israel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we could dedicate that same energy to what you promised everyone that you were going to do for Americans, that would be great. But once again, we're left feeling like this is just a slave colony.
Yeah. And the fact that the movement is called America First originally, and that is a stroke of genius, because it is so hard. They're trying their best, but it's so hard to make what they're doing look America first. And they're trying to do all these backwards arguments. Like, how is passing speech laws that like in some cases criminalize, or at the very least, kick you out of school, pull your federal funding if you criticize Israel? There are no laws about racism in America. If you Google right now, there is no recognized definition of racism by our government. But if you Google America's official definition of anti-Semitism, there's a whole page on the State Department's website about anti-Semitism. And so how do you call this America First when we are explicitly going against our First Amendment of our Constitution on behalf of a different nation? And inside of those guidelines, they specifically say that saying that Jewish people would have more allegiance to Israel than to America because they're Jewish, that's anti-Semitic to say. Crazy. While out of their mouths, they're saying we need to do these things for Israel, or like, I am a Jew first above all else. Things like that are like, how are we going along with this cognitive dissonance?
Do you think that there will be a moment where we are seeing Americans arrested? Because I'm so shocked by the fact that they're arresting students that have green cards and getting them out of, kicking them out of the country. And I'm just going, was I alive for BLM when the Trump administration in 2016 took the approach that this was really wrong and radical and leftist, when people were demanding speech laws and hate speech laws for BLM, and we were talking about how wrong that was. And now they've completely done a 180. This administration's done a 180, and they're like, but for the special category of Israel, all of this is actually fine. Like, woke is fine when it comes to Israel. Do you think there will come a time, because they do have these laws? Like, if I go down to Florida, do you think like Ron DeSantis is going to have me arrested if I criticize Israel?
I don't know how fast it'll happen, but in Europe, it's already happening. And if you notice the language, the IHRA definition, they've always been very intentional to say a non-legally binding definition, which to me is a direct setup for where they're going. And this is something that to their credit, people like Whitney Webb have been talking about for quite some time, that the surveillance state is the vast majority of the surveillance state is built on Israeli technology by Israeli tech firms. And Palantir is a great example. Palantir funded J.D. Vance to the nines. J.D. Vance is like, his whole inspiration for politics came from the Palantir and Peter Thiel space. And so those companies, they have massive AI-led databases that are just surveillance maximal. And they have surveillance on our phones, they have surveillance in our schools, they have surveillance in our EMS response systems. And those databases are cataloging everything that we're doing. And we don't really have a lot of transparency on what they're cataloging. But when I'm looking at the policies, and I'm looking at where Europe has gone with said policies, and I'm looking at the people that are behind the policies in America, to me, it looks like a direct walk from you are anti-Semitic to you support terrorists to you're a domestic terrorist. Now we have a reason to come after you. Wow. And I don't think that America will stand for it. I think that Americans are wise, and I think that we were raised on a culture of liberty and freedom of speech. And I think that they're trying to do a thing that is impossible to do, but it's only impossible to do because of people like you, because of people like Tucker, because of people in the media. I mean, even people like Joe Rogan, who gets called controlled opposition all the time. Like, he chose to have the conversation he had with me. He chose to have conversations with people about vaccines. Like, people will only go so far. And we have this media environment now where people that are wise and capable have enough reach to speak out and to counter narrative. Right. And if we didn't, I would think that we'd already be there. But I think they're going to try their hardest because it is an existential threat to the survival of the state of Israel, which is an existential threat to all Jews, is how a lot of people see it, even though that is anti-Semitic to say based upon their new speech laws.
Right. It's just absolutely incredible to see this happening. And I came up in politics with so many people who were fighting this BLM stuff, fighting these laws. And I just feel like they've become massive hypocrites because all they want is access to power. And they're willing to pretend like they have a total blind spot on this issue and just be consistent. If people have a right to say what they want to say about any group of people if they want to. And the idea that there needs to be some special laws on the book that are it's now creeping into the territory of saying that your religion is anti-Semitic.
Oh, it's directly in the guidelines.
The Jordan Peterson teaming up with the ADL to produce a report that didn't even spell psychology right, which was a tremendous embarrassment for that video to have gone out.
Oh, how the Peterson star has fallen.
I mean, that's been something to see.
Yeah.
And it's sad because there's I had no hatred at all when he wrote that. I don't know if we have that. Or
he helped red pill me in the first place. He helped get me thinking more critically about my beliefs when I was a leftist. And it was BLM that red pilled me because I was living in Bellingham, which is like micro Seattle. And my roommates were going out to like multi-thousand person protests in Seattle and then coming back and being mass Nazis. And I was like, what is going on, guys? This doesn't make sense. And I was watching the live streams of what was actually happening in Seattle and the CHOP, in the Chaz, like pallets of bricks, all sorts of stuff. And I think BLM is a good example of another movement that probably right from the very start was infiltrated by these people that run COINTELPRO and run these operations. And a lot of the Black people that were involved in that, I think, had legitimate perspectives and legitimate grievances that would have gone about it a much different way had they been the ones solely in control of the movement. But when you get your fangs in one of these movements early on, you can, and the CIA has been studying this stuff since the 60s and before, of how do you direct narratives to get people to follow things like cults, to get people to sort of be brainwashed by ideas, not just through hypnosis and drugs, because that's how you get people doing your job for you. Going on TV, even though you're not an operative, you're on TV vehemently defending Israel at all costs or vehemently defending transgenderism at all costs, even though your arguments make zero sense. And even like the slightest bit of conversation exposes what's going on here. If you control enough of the media and enough of the airwaves and you have enough people brainwashed to do this job for you, you can really take a movement like BLM right from the start and push it exactly where you want to go.
And it's just so ironic to examine this happening under a Trump administration when Trump ran, the entire thing was they kept saying he was Adolf Hitler. They kept saying he was anti-Semitic. It wasn't true. They looked through every possible venue to get this man dismissed because, you know, he can't run for president. He's this, he's that. And now he's allowing his administration to put into place laws to condemn the very people that got him into the office on behalf of the people who tried to keep him out.
Well, Miriam Adelson is going to get her money's worth. That's for dang sure. Right. And so I always think back to one of the most awesome moments in political history, which was Trump on stage in the first debate rounds in the primaries in 2015, probably, with Jeb Bush on stage. And Trump says, those are all their donors in the audience. And I couldn't get any because it's only seats for donors. And I don't want your money. I don't need your money. And it was such a slap in the face moment. And that was maybe it was the same Trump. Maybe it was all an act. I don't know. But that that energy is long gone.
It's gone.
And I mean, I'm optimistic about some of the things that are being done right now, but a lot of people are right on the money that Biden, whoever was behind Biden, crashed so much, so intentionally, so obviously, that it's hard not to wonder if that wasn't an intentional setup to lay the groundwork for Trump to get a whole bunch of easy wins, right? Because now Trump is coming in and Elon and him are doing all these easy wins that, yes, they are good at face value. And a lot of them are critical to have done, but they aren't even moving us back past the baseline in some instances. And in some instances, they're actually creating a major void where, oh, we don't need all these bureaucrats to work this job. We should replace them with AI. Like, we don't need all these people to do these jobs. We got technology that can take this over. And this is where the people on the internet that have been sort of ostracized for a long time talking about technocracy and about how we're walking closer and closer to this digital surveillance state. It's never been a popular take because it goes against both parties. But they've been sounding the alarm on Trump for a long time. And I'm not ready to say that they're necessarily right, but I am ready to say that everyone should be paying attention to this angle.
I think it's crazy. I mean, it's totally crazy for me to see the MAGA movement, which I thought was based on wanting to go back to how America was, Christian beliefs, hard work, and now we have a person who's effectively living at the White House who has been very explicit in what he believes in. Like, he wants data. Okay. He's not in there because and everyone's, oh, you needed him for Doge. What are you talking about? You needed an accountant to accomplish Doge. This is so weird. And I think that our issue is that we glorify these technocrats in the same way that the left glorifies celebrities. It's like they're mesmerized by Elon Musk's money. They're mesmerized by his success in the same way that a leftist might have been mesmerized by Taylor Swift's success and therefore are willing to listen to her political things. He's never been fleshed out. There's never been a tough interview asking Elon Musk about how you're going to shrink the very same government that you take money from, that all of your businesses rely upon, that you have contracts with. And that's a very important question to ask him. It doesn't need to be hostile, but what do you believe in? It's not family, right? So if we're talking about making America great again, we're talking about when we are on the basis of when we were based on our families and people were not being replaced by AI robots and not aspirationally wanting everyone to drive a Tesla or an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want a gas guzzler forever because I know what comes with that is more control. I don't want
can't shut your car off
I
or
don't
tell
want to be
you
able
how
to shut
far
my
you
car
can
off.
drive based on your social credit score.
Right. And I feel like Elon Musk needs to clarify what he believes on those issues because I don't want to become China. And I don't know that Elon Musk doesn't want to become China because that would enrich him. And I don't. And when people instantly defend him, I'm going, Elon Musk was not MAGA yesterday. And now all of a sudden the MAGA can't question, like original MAGA can't even question him because he's standing next to Trump. And so I certainly am questioning the circle of actors that are around Trump. And I have never felt good just on my spiritual vibes when it comes to Elon Musk. I feel he's a part of the Peter Thiel. We're just going to get all of these people in line with AI and it's going to be a tech future and we're going to combine robots with humanity and that will be that and we will do the thinking for you. That's the vibe I get from these people.
So I understand. So coming from the left has been really useful for me because I understand a lot of the arguments on the other side. This isn't really a left-right thing, but I was taken in for a long time and I still sometimes I entertain the idea that technology is coming regardless. We will march on. And you could have a horrible person in charge of that transformation or you could have a good person in charge of that transformation. Elon has done an exceptional job, politically speaking, of branding himself as the good technocrat, as the technocrat you can trust, as the one that's for free speech at all costs, though he's not, and the one that founded all his own companies. And he's amazing. But actually, he didn't actually do the work to found a lot of those companies. It's not exactly clear how brilliant his mind is in those companies. And the thing that actually really started to wake me up to it, ironically, is the video game scandal that he had, where have you even realized that Elon was faking that he was the top 10 video gamer at the hardest video game in the world?
I didn't know it was
There's
fake.
This whole scandal. It's fake, and it's obviously fake, and people exposed it at length online that clearly he didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't know how the items worked.
Slow this down because people might not have. I just recently heard from someone on my team about how he was the #1 gamer. So slow this down.
Exceptionally hard video game. The kind of video game that, and I'm not super familiar with this video game, but I used to play a lot of video games. And it's the kind of video game that people will play thousands of hours just to be able to beat the third boss out of 30 or something. I'm making numbers up, but it's an insanely hard video game. And so it's highly prestigious. And he came to, he was in the top of the leaderboards worldwide. And then this other video game, Diablo 4, I think it was, same thing, top of the leaderboards. But then he started live streaming it and people realized that he didn't even know basic things, about how this item works and about the strategy of how you do this, this movement thing to get and everyone was like, wait a minute, this is not a top video game player playing this game. And then they dug in more and it came out that basically the entire thing was a fake. And the fact that you would construct some fake characterization of you as some top video gamer, which obviously you don't have the time to be the top video game player of this multi-thousand-hour type of difficulty game while you're running 6 companies. That's a ridiculous thing.
I wish you hadn't told me this because my conspiracy theory, where my brain goes naturally with him, is that it's all too impossible.
Yeah.
You can't be running all of these businesses plus be the #1 gamer given thousands of hours to some random game. And then I read this that was what I was saying. I was just none of this makes any sense. And we're just being told that he does do all of this stuff. But what if it's actually no, the government created all of that stuff. And then they just handed it to Elon Musk to be the face of it so that people would be just adoring him and allow him to do whatever it was and allow him to get in there as if he's just like a player working for somebody else. And I didn't want to lean into that, but I genuinely just go, there's not enough hours in the day for all the things that we're supposed to believe Elon Musk is doing. He was able to just leave all of these three big companies.
Baby mama drama all over the place.
All over the place. And then also, I just find him to be quite volatile in terms of his treatment of people. Like even the Ashley St. Clair thing.
100%.
And I'm going, to lead successful businesses, you can't be like that. You have to be able to get along, take a little bit of criticism, right? And I think Steve Bannon hit the nail on the head when he said you can't take any criticism. And as soon as someone upsets him, he's like locking out your accounts over H-1B visas. It's like, dude, well, can't we just have like a debate about H-1B visas?
I thought this was the free speech platform.
Yes. And suddenly he got very weird about it. And so now what you're saying is that was faked. Like that's
the video
fact.
game one was faked, yeah. And it kind of got it kind of got pushed to the side because video gaming is sort of a cult culture. It's a very micro, like it's a huge culture. But if you're not in video games, it's really easy for that to not come across your feed. Oh yeah, Gamergate is such a cool rabbit hole to go down. Changed the internet forever, right? And so it just little things started to add up around Elon that I started to have more and more questions about. Is he really doing what we're being told he's doing while he's tweeting all day long?
And he tweets all day long. Tweets all day.
Right? And so it starts to get very concerning as far as where are we going and who is taking us there? Because right now, this is more of a crypto conversation, is there's a divide between centralized and decentralized. And crypto is the obvious place for this, where the banks are trying to take the concept of crypto and turn it into this centralized digital currency model where it'll be just as good as crypto, but we'll control it from the inside. So there will be none of this crazy volatility, none of these crazy problems. Though I think that they created a lot of those problems to make crypto look bad. But crypto has lots of problems. Decentralized media has lots of problems. Like in our industry, the decentralized media, people get things wrong. Like we spread misinformation on accident. People can, come in and spread misinformation on purpose. But would you rather live in a world where these systems are decentralized and we all control a small piece, or where it's centralized and someone controls your brain chip and they can turn it off and lock you down in your home and control how far your car can drive if you don't play ball? And so more and more it's looking like in crypto and finance, in AI and technology, in communications and media, in all these different aspects that control the world, we are seeing the decentralized technologies change the game forever. Crypto changing money, media changing the news and information, and over and over and over. And more we're seeing figureheads being propped up that sort of seem to be on the team of decentralized, seem to be pro-free speech, seem to be pro-crypto. And then we kind of like somehow walk into this world where actually it's going to be this US government thing, or actually it's going to be this like, we'll just run Grok and it'll be the best one ever. Things like that.
I wish you didn't tell me this, because I've just been reading so much about and speaking about Tavistock Institute, if you're familiar with that, like they can quite literally just make someone a celebrity. Like they've been doing this since people who think that the hippies generation was totally natural and organic. It wasn't. It was literally, they decided what music you would hear, how that music would impact you. They wanted people LSD free, sex, rock and roll. And a part of that was creating like the Beatles. Like the Beatles is a perfect example. The Beatles was totally a psychological operation. Don't even get me started on that. But then just in the research that I've done of looking at Zelensky, for example, he's clearly not the leader of Ukraine. He's an actor, a literal actor who was trained,
who had a whole show
by the
about
CIA.
being the president of Ukraine before. It's like programming.
And then everywhere you look, they're all actors. Like Emmanuel Macron was an actor. He had no power. Anybody who has watched my Brigitte Macron series walks away and understands that he has never been in control. He was literally, this is why the Elon Musk thing is bothering me, because they just pretended that he had this like illustrious banking career, when in reality, David Rothschild just like held his hand up through everything. And he didn't even know what EBITDA stood for. He didn't even know what EBITDA stood for.
Your
he was working for the biggest Rothschild bank, okay? So they do this. It's a fact. Like the people who worked with Emmanuel Macron spoke out and said this. Like they faked his I'm saying SAT scores, but there was just
like
to add this, if you haven't watched it. It's more like an MBA program that everyone goes through in France. And it's basically like the cream of the crop go here. And 1 year, Emmanuel Macron, who was an absolute idiot and somehow got into this program after not being able to get to it for a while, somebody held his magic hand and put him in it. They got their test results back and he was the top of the class, and the class revolted because they knew he was an idiot. And they were like, these are fake results. So they canceled the exam results for the year for the first time ever. And then when Emmanuel Macron became president, he canceled the entire program because it's a massive blemish on his career. Imagine like Harvard sits for these exams and the entire like class revolts because they're like, Obama came in number one. They're like, there's no way. He didn't know anything in class this entire time. You don't even know how he's in this school. That happened. Emmanuel Macron didn't know anything about banking. He didn't know anything about anything when he was at school, a part of this business program, and he was fake. He literally was installed as president of France with the Rothschilds behind him. So when you say something like that about Elon Musk, about the banking thing and potentially people just making his character, it does send a chill down my spine because
really
I just feel like there aren't enough hours in the day.
Yeah. I mean, and the other obvious actor is Donald Trump, unfortunately. Like, I don't think, I still am of the mindset that Donald Trump is like his own bullheaded man that, you know, is doing his own thing. He was raised in the business world. He was raised, but I think that his own thing is closely aligned with enough of these people throughout his life that a lot of his incentive structures in his own soul are directly aligned with all these other people. And it's not so clear to me that he is America first in the way that Americans are America first.